at the heart of the Savo East National Park, and we also are having conversations that are pertinent to you. So away from that, let's briefly look at what the papers detail this morning alongside Mheshimiwa Honorable Kassim Sawa Tandaza, Member of Parliament of Matuga. Good to have you, Mheshimiwa, once again. Pole sana, that was a hitch. Tumekuweka kwa baridi kweli kweli.
No. It's not as cold as where we are used to be in Central. So whenever you're in coast, even if it tends to be cold, you imagine it is hot and warm. So I'm in that imagination. I'm quite okay.
Yeah.
And of course, glad to be back at TV 47.
It's a pleasure to have you this morning, and we look forward to having a good conversation. What would you make of the coast politics so far, and generally the economic activities now that we're talking about the International Tourism Week?
Well, I will need more time to discuss the politics of down cost. But in short, I will say cost politics reloading.
I don't think it is reloading. King is doing well.
That's what I will briefly say, that it's reloading.
How reloading is reloading?
So expect a lot of reorganization, but for the better when it comes to coastal unity, which I'm normally really very passionate about. Otherwise, about the tourism,
don't rush just yet, Mahesh. We have to talk about the coast region politics. I give you approximately 7 minutes thereabout to tell us something. I had Madam Moimuna yesterday, who's also well-renowned and has hugely articulated the coastal region politics. And she says the likes of Kingi are doing well in terms of making sure that there will be that unity. And you are in ANC. Kingi on this other side is more ODM in as much as there's this new party that he comes aboard on, with. What will it take for him to buy you guys into this side?
Well, I don't think any coastal leader needs any prodding or buying to really talk about coastal unity for that matter. It started way back in 2017, 2018, when basically all the coastal parliamentarians then actually looked for Kingi. They looked for Kingi, looked for Mvuria, and especially the second-term governors, and actually discussed this idea that it's high time coast came together and articulated issues as from one point of view, looking at the national issues from one perspective as coastal regions. The reason being that we have our own unique problems, not related to Central, not related to Nyanza, that will need unity of purpose to handle this. So it is us, actually. And I can also, for this matter, say it is basically the coastal people themselves. Whenever I go on air, if it were live and people were to call from coast, they would ask the same question: when are you people going to come out as one united front and articulate issues from coast? So, one, it is homegrown. The people themselves from coast have been asking for this. Us, from where we sit as parliamentarians, as I've initially said, we started this journey way back in 2007. And we did meet Kingi himself. We did meet Kingi. We discussed these issues. And that time was talking, I don't know whether you followed, his, when he talked about tufe. Tufe is nimpira ile ya kawaida, ile ya makaratasi na nini. And he went on to even say, mwenye tufe hachengwi, which is true. For some of us who had the opportunity to play on those open fields na hiyo mpira, somehow there used to be one person with that ball. And he would come with it at his own pleasure. If you can be there at 4 p.m., but he'll come at 5 and you'll wait. And the moment you really give him a hard tackle, he will pick his ball and walk out, and the game is over. So, and that is actually what is happening in the political parties, by the way. It has a lot of what is happening in the political parties. That for as long as you are not the owner, or you are not in the closer to the heartbeat of the owner of that political party, then you try to bring in your antics and you are thrown out. We've seen this happening in even the ruling party Jubilee and other parties happening. So this is an idea whose time came long time ago. We would go back to history. For some of us, we were not there, but we were told the late Ronald Ngala was able to bring coast together. I was not much into politics then, but we know the late Mgogo, Karisa Maitha, also somehow brought coast under one voice. So it's something that the coastal people have been asking. Remember, coast is not a tribe, and this is where I think most people get it wrong. Yeah, get it wrong. In fact, Kenyans would be so happy to have coastal unity because it's not a tribe, unlike the others who are basically tribes coming together. Us, we are not a tribe. Yeah, coasts, and for large voting patterns, we are all there. So, way forward to what is happening now in coasts. To me, I think it is the best that it can be. It might not be what we had essentially thought, because when we met Kingi, we really were thinking that it will be all consultative, so that by the time we are saying this is the party, remember there are already parties, only that they have been very weak, so to speak. And they have been weak given those who are running those parties. You know, to run a party, for a start, you need resources. That's true. So for the 6 or 7 parties which have been there, basically, the people who are at the helm do not command a lot of resources to really move out and sell these parties. So
it would have been better to set up new ones? A new one, or
we were looking for, how do you make 7 parties strong?
Pick one that is formidable enough.
Which criteria would you use to pick one? I think the best idea was for a coalition of those parties. So that we end up with one leader. You know, when you have a coalition of parties, you definitely have one leader. We were in NASA. Raila was the presidential candidate, so by de facto he was the leader of NASA. And you can translate that into all other coalition of parties. So the best to me would have been those parties to come together as a coalition and have one leader. But you see now, kwa sisi wa pwani, everybody is better than the other person. So when you are to bring them together, kila mtu ana chama yake. How do you say he's subordinate to another person? I think that was the main undoing when it came to the coalition.
So Kingi did not consult you people when he was setting this, and
for sure, I want to be categorical that I know very little about PA. And for the other colleagues in Parliament we've been talking to, Kingi didn't follow the path that we had started in 2018. And I can't remember, and I know it has not happened, where Kingi, in the formation of PA, he had a meeting of the members of parliament or senators or even MCAs all over coast. You know, we didn't want a party from Kilifi. You know, we didn't want that leader to be a leader of Kilifi County and we end up with another leader of Kwale County and Lamu County. No, we wanted coast as a region to come out in terms of its political leadership right from the grassroots. MCAs, the elected leaders, MCAs, members, and even the business community. I cannot remember. It could have happened where King himself probably consulted or had a forum of elected leaders talking about the political formation of that party. That one I can't also remember. So I think there could be a few misses here and there. But overall, the idea is good. People have been waiting for it. So for now, it all depends with how Governor Kingi now takes it to the next level, the consultations that is going to take it up. For some of us, we are more than ready because this is what you've been asking for us, to have to go to the national table with an agenda of coast people, not just as Tandaza or not just as Kwale.
But you need to acknowledge that you are deputy to also a very formidable party. And so when we're talking about party politics, will it call for a scenario where, again, once you get this party that is formidable enough for the coast, you might need to have them come together and conglomerate and join the other coalitions, or what?
For sure, that is the way to go. For sure, that is the way to go. If the other, what you would call big parties, established parties, are looking for coalitions now, going towards 2022, how much would we be able to achieve as a party, even if we are to all coalesce around that unit for the political party in coast to go to the national level? So, from where I sit is being a deputy party leader in ANC and being a leader from the coast. If we were to sit and come out and have our issues on the table, then I would also be able to bring these tables at the national front for those other parties and say, well, if we are to join with the ANC, or if we are to do a coalition with the ANC, if we are to do with a coalition now on One Kenya and any other formation, what is our take on that formation? You can see the Mount Kenya Business Forum, what they were asking. They were having the reducible minimum. You see, what is our reducible minimum for cost if we are to do a coalition now? You know, time is running out. We can, sometimes we say a day is too long. In the political front, you are having about 10 months, 9 months now. But for sure, we need to do it sooner than later.
What would be the possibly reducible minimums? What would be the possibly reducible minimums for the people of the coast? What are these dire things that you would need to be addressed? At least we have an idea of what the people of the mountain would require.
Well, for me, at the economic front, we have so many natural resources down at the coast, which ask any other local and they'll tell you they have not benefited them, you know. Even when we talk about the biggest mining, which is going on in this country, which is based at titanium. Well, it's good for the corporate and it's good for probably for the royalties being given to the government. But if you are to go and ask the locals, they have not felt that investment, and it is right on their soil. They are the neighbors there. So, and you can go over and over the whole of the coastal belt, even where we are in Taita here. There are so many minerals, natural resources being mined in Taita Taveta here. And if you go down to the locals, they are just as poor as never before. They have not really. So those there are things, economic issues, which we can put as a reducible minimum. That with this particular resource, if we get an investor or if the government comes in, this is the minimum that we would want to get from you. And of course, that time we are negotiating with the person who will be having power. We are assuming that the coalition that we should join, and that's the way it should be, it will be the coalition that is going to form the next government. And of course, we put these things down into paper. To me, the issue of seats actually doesn't really excite me, because
you think you don't want one of you as at the top of the helm, and therefore that will be a guarantee?
Well, he could be there, but I think to me the policies targeting the coastal resources will be more important, because for a political seat or for a cabinet position, remember, if we go to the land issues in coast, they have been there, and for quite a long time we've been having ministers from for the docket of lands from coast. The current situation I'm having in my constituency, and I think this you saw, it was in Parliament the other day, it was caused by the late Darius Mbela when he was the Minister for Lands. You know, the Mbela farm in Matuga and Diani. For a long time, this the latest, Swazuri is later, but we've had Noah Katanangala being Waziri Walan. We had at one point Baya, the PS, who is executive for lands. Even currently, until now, until recently, the CIS for lands was Nini Mungaro, who is from Coast. But these issues have not been solved. Why? Because the policies, you know, there are no policies which guarantee solutions for the problems of cost. Okay, the 2010 Constitution came with a bit of reprieve with the National Land Commission. And to me, it didn't matter whether the chairman was from coast or not. It was a question of policies. By then, they had the powers to investigate and probably take back lands to the locals. That period expired. So whoever is put there, even if he is a coastal, even if the person put there is a squatter himself, he cannot solve it because the law does not give him those powers. So to me, the reducible minimums would be in terms of policies, which will redress the issues of land, the squatter problem and cost, the issues of policies which will address the economy of this country. Our cashew nut, we've been singing this in Parliament. We've done bills in Parliament. Personally, I've done a bill and it went through. But of course, with the current government, if it's not interested, it goes back to the executive. Once you do the bill, it's ascended, it goes back to the executive. Up to now, with the passage of the BIXA bill, well, the CS is now doing some public participation. But we are hoping sooner than later we are going to have an authority, just like the same way we're going to have a BICSA board. But now this depends with the executive. So those are the things that to me would be quite important when it comes to the irreducible minimum. And that can be achieved if, as a region, we can come together. If the Taita, if the Pokomo, if the Duruma and whoever else in Coast, the Swahili, the Bajuni, even the Kikuyu who lives in Coast, actually realize that we need, if Coast benefits, he's going to benefit. Not to start thinking that, well, I'm in Coast, but I'm out Kenya. You know, it pains me.
That's true.
It pains
and it
me.
happens a lot in the country.
It pains me. I remember visiting Nakuru 2 months ago, 2 months ago really, with the Musalia, and we visited the governor, Lake Nyanjui, and he kept on talking about us people in Mount Kenya. You know me, I'm very fast to respond. And I reminded him, I thought Nakuru is in Rift Valley.
That's
Rift
exactly
Valley
what they say.
I asked him, and he says, well, we know, of course, it's cosmopolitan. In fact, it's very tricky. Everybody's here. But, of course, our origin. So, it has taken ages, generations, but still, a Kikuyu probably, those in Nakuru, they believe they are Mount Kenya. So, it means the people in Lamu, they will still believe, and those in Kwale, you know, that is the problem. So my appeal is for coastal region, those who reside, live and breathe in coast, start articulating issues about coast. Not about where they came from, because now you are in coast. Because the moment you start going that direction, I think that is where our problems are. That nobody now wants coast to be united. Because there are some other interests of coastal people who do not have interest of coast. Their interests are not in coast. That is the problem.
All right.
Otherwise, going forward, I'm still hopeful that with the 9 months remaining, within the next 2-3 months, we are going to move fast as leaders, forget about our personal differences, come together, and articulate issues of coast as coastal leaders, and be able now to bargain. You know, bargain with other Kenyans, with other leadership from other regions, so that we come up with our reducible minimum and put them on the table. And going forward, we back whoever will be agreeing with us with the irreducible minimum. Otherwise, if we go the way we are, it's so sad. And it's so sad.
On the reducible, I can almost guarantee you that matters tourism will be there. We talk about tourism, and you know the coast region takes 60% of the tourism capability in the country. What would you make of it, especially at this point when we have COVID-19, and then we have to at least have this sector revived? You
see, Linda, people just, I don't know whether Kenyans have short memories. We know we've blamed everything on COVID-19. You know, we can even now blame fuel prices on COVID-19 if we want. It's like we were doing any better before COVID. You see, tourism at the coastal region had a beating way back in 1992. I might not have been quite active in politics, but I was in business by that time. I had already left. So and how did he take this beating? He took that beating through the infamous Likoni clashes, if you can remember. Maybe you were you in primary or secondary at that time?
Been in primary,
so you cannot remember. So let me give you a bit of history about how tourism went down in coast. And if you look at those clashes, they were government instigated, for sure. With all the intelligence that we have, and we can tout ourselves to be having the best intelligence, or one of the best in the world. The Likoni clashes will not just come just like that. Remember, they happened even before the election. So, for the 1992 ones, it was not like the 2007 one, where we are saying probably people are deciding. No, they happened before, way before the election, you see. So, people lost their lives, the properties was destroyed and all that. And since largely we have been relying in coast with the international tourists, then that was the end of it. And anybody can tell you that tourism has never been the same again in coast since 1992. And 1992, going forward to 1997, there were clashes again. Remember the infamous Kaya Bombo? That one came in. 2002, there were clashes that came about in Mlungunipa, and now started MRC. coming in, MRC coming in, going towards 2007. So it's like after every 5 years in costs,
there's a proper clash.
There are organized clashes, you see. Right. And what happens? Who would want to go to for touring a region when there are clashes? I remember one second. I was talking to my DCC yesterday, and he told me, "Oh, you've been away for quite some time." I was, "Where have you been?" And then I told him, "I've been. I went for a holiday in Somalia." And then he said, "Somalia? Really?"
A holiday?
Yeah, holiday in Somalia? Are you telling me to talk to my security agency to investigate you? Of course, I was kidding. So you can imagine, that is the situation. If somebody was to tell you that he's taking his family for a holiday in Somalia, I would think that is... So that is actually what the international tourists will look at the coastal region with those clashes now. Who would want to bring his family when houses are burning?
There's a tourism police unit, and I spoke to the commander, should have been the day before yesterday.
Yeah.
What needs to be done to make sure that they are given the energy and they are given, they're well endowed to make sure that at least, they make this a game of the past. They change the image or the perception that already exists. You know,
to me, the tourist police, where they will come in, is to restore law and order at the lower level, to make sure that the beaches are safe. You don't have people going there to snatch some kofias and some wallets from the tourists and whatever. You know, the normal patrolling. That is what they would do. But they would only do that after the tourists are there. But the problem we are having is they're not even there. They can't come because of, and this is about politics, That is what I was trying to drive at, and that is the reality. I think it's a high time we addressed ourselves to this problem of our politics, whereby after every 5 years, somewhere somebody sits and says, now for me to win, where do I destabilize? Where do I make sure people are safe so that I get a safe vote? I think that is what has been happening since 2002, you see. So, COVID would say, kulikuwa na kidonda alafu mtu akaja akasugua but the kidonda was already there, lakini sasa ndio mtu amekisugua kidogo, labda akakieka pilipili kidogo. That would the way I would look at it. But even if COVID was to go away tomorrow, with the current policies, with the current politicking, with the current situation where we are, most Kenyans, most investors are imagining that, well, election is coming, so let's wait and see how this time it's going to be. And our history is that we've never had peaceful elections. Then to me, that what should be addressed. That's what should be addressed by the executive, by every leader, by every politician. Those reckless utterances which had started, I think they should not have been there, and there should now be mechanisms of making sure that they don't come back.
Wow.
Otherwise, to me, that would be the game changer when it comes to tourism in coast. And basically in the whole country, but mainly in coast, where, as you've said, the economy of coast up to 60% was basically based in tourism. The fisherman will go to fish knowing that he'll sell his fish to the hotels, or the employee who is coming from the hotel. The kibanda person will know that whoever will be coming from the hotel atakuwa amepata tipu ya mzungu na kasalary, will come and buy. That is how the cost economy was essentially essentially based on. And now what is left? Nothing. Basically nothing.
Looking at the park itself, you get worried because they speak of drought every time. Should I serve you tea? I think it's only fair, So at least you also don't say nimekuweka kwa baridi sana.
This is okay. We'll just have it.
Okay, sawa. So you look at the park. I had that conversation with the warden, and he speaks of how the situation is dire, especially for the animals, drought and all that. Then we just ask ourselves, how purposeful can we be to make sure that this then is not what we are experiencing, or we don't have worries in regards to maintaining the population of our animals. Well, that aside, we briefly look at the papers, and a reshuffle of the cabinet.
Well, let me say something about the park. And I was the drought 2 weeks ago. I had a conference on climate change in Italy. Yeah. And there are some things which we normally take for granted. But climate change is real.
It is.
Basically, just not in Tsavo, not just in Taita, but even in Kwale, the rains failed this year. They literally failed this year. And we attribute this to the climate change, the environmental degradation that we've been having. So it is unfortunate that it's happening during our time. It's dry. Certainly, when it comes this dry, you don't expect the animals, even when tourists come, they are not quite, they're not able to see them the way they had been
expecting initially the way they were.
So that means there is a likelihood of them going back disappointed and thinking, well, there isn't much animals the way we had anticipated. And yet, this is a sector that we really rely on as people from the coast generally. And remember, tourism in the coast is everywhere. We can start from Lamu to Tana River, to Taita Taveta, of course, Kilifi, Kwale, where the beach hotels are. But every part of coast has its own share of the tourism sector. So, well, we can only hope that serious efforts can be done to make sure that we get back our normal rain patterns, because that will be good for the farmers and good for the animals and good for tourism. Well, reshuffle.
Oh, yes.
Was there any?
You think there was no?
From where I sit, I think it was an anticlimax. For so long, people have been talking about reshuffle. And I think from where I sit, our counterparts in ODM have been looking into
forward to that. You want to tell me MC wasn't looking forward to that?
No.
A wiper wasn't looking forward to that?
From where I sit, I think we have been very categorical in what we are looking for as the ANC. I know, without going much into detail, there had been some advances before to have some leadership of NC join government, and we said no, we want to form the next government, not join this current government. So our position is a little bit different. But I think our colleagues from ODM have been really expecting that the reshuffle would bring in some big wings from
Have you been genuine as ANC? Because where ODM is, and you know, while it speaks to the current government, ANC is there. Where Wiper is speaking to the current government, ANC is there. And therefore, ANC could not have accepted that they are joining
I wish you could be more specific on, because apart from our One Kenya Alliance, which brings, remember today, KANU is having its National Governing Council, and as ANC we are invited today at Bombers. And we are there because of the One Kenya Alliance. Otherwise, we are also left with the fact that KANU has an agreement with the Jubilee, which we don't have. So saying that we are there, I think you are really misrepresenting our facts.
Okay.
You see.
Let me ask this. You not being there fully or not acknowledging that connection with the government, don't you think it could be an undoing? Because there's been, word around that Musalia Mudavadi could be endorsed, and I know he said
by who?
That he's not.
By who?
Probably the president.
For whose benefit?
For ANC.
You get
the people of Kenya.
The history of this country is that you get endorsed and you fail.
In most cases,
no, it is the history. You know, I'm an engineer. No. You know, what has changed? You are endorsed by a government where the fuel, the common mwananchi cannot afford electricity bills, they cannot afford gas. You are endorsed by a government where there's no pesa fukoni, there's no money. You know, the small business person, you are endorsed by a government where the taxes are too high, and then you expect now to win.
Let's be honest.
A popular vote.
So an endorsement from President Uhuru Kenyatta.
No, you see, I cannot ignore the powers that the president has.
Yes.
I cannot ignore that. I cannot ignore the fact that His Excellency is also a voter in this country. And he could be, certainly there are people who listen to him. But if I were to go for the presidency myself come 2022, right now, I will not wait for anybody's endorsement, especially from the current government with all the problems that the Kenyans are suffering. You are better off campaigning from outside the government, because that is what you will be telling people. Otherwise, if you are endorsed, you are saying, my government, fuatanyayo. Is that what you are talking about? That, well, I agree with whatever has been happening, so please elect me to tendelea hivi. Who will vote for you on that platform? And I think this is where now, and I've said this before, I don't know whether people understand me, that the deputy president, from where he sits now, has a better platform. And I think that is where more Kenyans are trying to listen to him from the platform that he has than if he was to act or to campaign as the deputy president, taking all the baggage. You know, there are good things, of course, but now from where the common mwananchi, the common mwananchi does not translate how SGR affects his life. At the macro level, at the national level, yes, but the common mwananchi, it's not. He's been traveling between Mombasa and Nairobi.
Right.
Way before the SGR came into play. There were enough buses. You saw enough matatus.
As cheap as 750 shillings.
You know. Okay? So that is the problem that we have. So to us, if we are to go back as NC, I think we are focused. Of course, it's not going to be easy. We need everybody. That is why we need Mount Kenya. And we need Coast, we need Nyanza, whoever becomes the president of this country, be it Musalia or any other person, my prayer is that it's Musalia, needs everybody to support him. And that is why, if His Excellency says, well, I would want to go with this one. But to me, if I were the president, I would not even take that route.
Listen to his statement when he says, tulishikana maendeleo yakaja. And at the same time, he says, it is upon you as the people to decide on the person that you want to vote. Tulishikana maendeleo yakaja, between him, now that is him and Right Honorable. Is that not an outright endorsement? Yeah, but you see, it could be an outright endorsement, but from where I sit now, I would ask, if it's the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, muliposhikana, peace came, but when it came to maendeleo, peace came. That was no doubt about it. Now we are looking at the issue of maendeleo. Do you think maendeleo ni hii bei ya mafuta? Maendeleo ni hizi shida ambazo wako nazo, gas kupanda. Maendeleo ni imepunguzwa lini? Amesema inapunguzwa hivi. I was trying to read the article. I was trying to read the article and I was very keen to see which measures. Because the highest component of electricity bill are taxes, you see. And that is where we raise them. That is where we'll keep raising them. So if we was telling me I'll reduce, I don't know, fuel, the forex, we'll do away with adjustment, fuel, we'll do, those 5, I think there are 7 taxes on fuel. Then that will make sense. Otherwise, changing the CS from Linda to Tandaza with the same policies, you don't reduce. Certainly that will not come into, it will not translate into reduction of the power bills. So unless those specifics are addressed, and the best which is to be addressed, which I think I've said this before, the president doesn't seem to be coming out strongly, is the issue of corruption. You see, in the energy sector. It is the issue of corruption in the energy sector. Some time back, the committee on energy, I think, was having a discussion with the CS and his team about these independent power producers, Linda. And what shocked me at that level is the fact that we have independent power producers in this country who have a contract with the government. The government pays them through our taxes, through the power bills, whereby you only need to sign an agreement that I'll be able to produce 1,000 megawatts, and that translates into money, whether you produce it or not. So as long as that translates into money, it means you have to pay those people, whether they produce or not, And that is where the problem is. Now you ask yourself, who are these owners? Who could have been so blind to sign such an agreement if there were not other interests behind, That is where the problem is. Does that need to change the CS for energy for that to be done? No. From where I sit, no. So, wait and see. But I can tell you from where I sit, for as long as those issues are not tackled and there's no will for them to be tackled the way it is, we are here. We expect power energy to go up. With a new CS or with an old CS or with a female CS or with a Muendi CS, nothing will change. Because
they are not going for the problem. And the problem is corruption within the energy sector. We are looking at the recent increase in fuel. And I think from where I sit, if you translate the energy at the international level, okay, yes, crude oil has gone up, but has it gone up to the extent that we have to? And we have our neighboring countries. Are they getting their fuel from the Democratic Republic of Congo?
Yet it's cheaper.
Yet it is cheaper. And they are still, how are they getting it? From the same international market, you see. Ours is about corruption. Those who supply, they have to factor in so many things.
But we are worried.
So that is the problem. As long as there is no will to handle corruption in this country, God for us all.
How much can we trust the members of parliament? Because, well, that is the first thing upon, coming back from recess. That was addressed and that was articulated there, with so much emotions. And, it appeared like there was that genuine, need to make sure that the Kenyan are cushioned, especially at this point. What much fruits can it yield?
Those are two issues. One, the members of parliament, me included, are so passionate. We are so sympathetic. We are Kenyans about the cost of living generally, and more so when it comes to the energy sector. The moment you touch the energy sector, you touch everything. You touch everything in the economy. And remember, even when it came to the VAT on fuels, basically parliament rejected that bill. I don't know whether you remember.
I do.
When we said nay, and then the ayes had it. The ayes nay, and then ayes have it. It was interesting.
So interesting.
I was so surprised and really a bit disappointed. I have a lot of respect for our speaker.
You can't counter that in parliament, by the way. Once he says the ayes have it, even if it's not the case, there's no way you counter. It's a
done deal. It's a done deal. You cannot take parliamentary proceedings at that level to court. You can't. And that's it. So I was a bit disappointed when our speaker of the National Assembly, and now he's turned to a real politician, when he was taking it back, that is the parliamentarians who failed Kenya.
And in fact, he was insisting that you people bring this motion in the House. I will make sure that...
And they was asking, what has changed with our national, the Muturi? Because that time, certainly, that bill didn't go through, but he said it went through. Now he's saying, bring it on, and then I think there's some bit of course, times change. Probably he has seen the light now. Sometimes you people you used to have somebody called, was it John or whoever, who was a hypocrite, but all of a sudden, he saw light and he changed, and he was the proper
soul.
The soul, it is soul, it is soul. So probably that's what has happened to Muturi. But for sure, let me also tell Kenyans, what is the 8% of 137? It translates to about less than 12 shillings. So assuming VAT was removed, you would expect it to come down with about 10 shillings or so. But is that the best that we can do when it comes to the energy sector? No.
Certainly not.
No. Certainly our problem are those other charges which keep on compounding, you see, which we were saying, I think somebody was, I think we can Google and get the facts right, that currently in Ethiopia, the cost of fuel is equivalent of 50 Kenya shillings, while ours is almost 3 times that. So even reducing by 12 shillings, to me, is
still not going to attain.
It's not going to take us to where we should be. So we should address the core problems. Okay, fine, zero rate, the VAT, but again, go down. For sure, we might not be able to be enjoying fuel at 50, but I think we can go back to around 70 up to 80. And I think then, talking about half, we would expect now all the other sectors actually picking up from there. And that is where we should be. But main problem, corruption. Not only in the energy sector. It's unfortunate that when you touch the energy sector, you touch everything. But to me, that will be core. Is there willingness? Is there zeal from the leadership? No. That is what is my...
All right. Right Honorable Raila Odinga appears to be climbing the mountain pretty fast. They say the mountain has met the lake.
Yeah.
Or the lake is meeting the mountain, whichever way you want to look at it. And he comes up with a lot of, proposals economically. Yeah. And it's not just him. We have seen your proposal as ANC that many have equally, celebrated and said, you know what, this is, if well implemented, can be, or if well, presented and policies set, can be implemented for the benefit of the Kenyans. Yeah. We've seen that one of the bottoms-up approach. Let's focus a bit on the meeting of Right Honorable Raila Odinga with the key figures in the mountain.
Yeah. Well, to me, that is a good thing. It is a good thing in as far as we are saying, as Kenyans, we are talking to each other. You see, as Kenyans, even at the political level, we've reached a point where you can go anywhere and talk politics and sell your ideas and listen to the other people. To me, that is a good idea. It's a good idea that even if we are to come together as costs, our vote compared to the national tally is so small, so to speak. But we are saying we would be able to go to Nyanza as cost and tell them, look, for a long time, we've been with you.
Yes.
You see, generally, cost has been perceived to be an ODM zone. ODM zone is Raila comes from Nyanza. So we tell them, for a long time, we've been with you. Now it's high time. Simuregeshe mkono. Sasa tuangalie mambo ya pwani sasa. And they say, well, we are listening to you. Not dismissing us because we don't come from Nyanza, as previously. So I'm looking at it from that angle. So, if... the Right Honorable Raila Odinga can go to Mount Kenya now and people sit and keenly listen to him genuinely. And of course, if there's somebody from Mount Kenya goes to Nyanza and goes to Rift Valley, where the DP comes from, and the DP goes to any other place, to me, that is what we would be looking. I've been looking for as a nationalist, as a leader in this country. And but for as far as the irreducible minimum of the Mount Kenya, I have a problem. Yeah, I think they are being too selfish. I'm sorry to use this. These are
the tycoons of Mount Kenya, or generally the Mount Kenya region, and including the leaders, because again...
Well, even before the tycoons, I think we've had the other coalition of Honorable Martha Kuria, Kiunjuri, and Moses Kuria, and whatever. They have more or less been talking about the same things. They have been positioning themselves like, if we don't get the presidency, then the deputy is ours. I think that is very unselfish. From cost, while we can't, why can't they say, well, for almost 60 years now, we've had the presidency and whatever. Can we have now the president, okay, if not from cost, then the deputy come from cost? Or even not Eastern.
Gotv is saying that really the position is not what counts to us this time.
Well, sometimes let me tell you, leaders sometimes have what we call double speak. They can organize themselves like in that particular podium. This is what I'm going to say. But you guys, yes, our position. So you know our position, yes. But because of 1, 2, 3, this is what I'm saying. And I think I have been saying this, and I think now I'm vindicated. When even the DP kept on saying that with the UDA is the one party, he's not going to go for coalitions. I said, no, watch this space. As we approach,
you will need
he will need coalitions. I think now he has started saying, well, we can accommodate a view. That is the way our politics is. So to me, Mount Kenya, I think they are being very unfair to the rest of us. Wow. I was there 2 weeks ago. And they're still complaining about roads when they have thousands and thousands of kilometers of roads. Can it be noted, in my constituency, I have only 16 kilometers of tarmac. A whole constituency. 16? Length of 100,000 kilometers, over 100 kilometers, length, width of about 100 kilometers with 16 kilometers of road, you see. And 2 weeks ago, as a committee of parliament, when we were inspecting projects, and for that matter in Kiambu, we were in Gatundu North and which is it, Githunguri, those constituencies, they were complaining about roads, that this government, we are not happy the way they have not done that infrastructure, and yet they agree that in a constituency they are talking of over 800 kilometers of tarmac road in one constituency, while some of us tunaona lami kwa viusasa. We need to do a tour of our school children, organized for a bus and transport to go and see tarmac within the constituency.
I would have tasked you to
so the Mount Kenya, the Mount Kenya, I think at one point I think they have also to realize that they are dealing with the whole Kenya, with the diversity, with the marginalization, which has been purposeful from the previous government, and since the previous governments, they have been from Mount Kenya. You see, the previous governments lately, they were in the same format. One, we started the presidency from Mount Kenya, and even when the president was not from Mount Kenya, they had what they are asking for now. The deputies were from Mount Kenya. And I think that is not the way they should be looking at this. So for their reducible minimum, I think they also owe Kenyans to even release the deputy president to a different region, for that matter. For the things they're talking about, we started by, I'm talking about the natural resources that we have in coast. When we talk about coffee board, in Mount Kenya, it's coffee. When you talk about tea board is Mount Kenya. When we talk now, there's even a Miraa fund. It is basically from Mount Kenya. Can't they even know that we have cashew nut here? There's no cashew nut board, there's no coconut, there's no Bixa, there's no nothing here. And it's like they would want to have it all and continue having it all.
They are negotiating well, or what exactly? Because look at ODM itself now, which we were talking about, and then there's a cropping up of Wanjigi, appears to be the opposition within, coming up to even set up offices.
Wanjigi is not an opposition
within. It's not an opposition within?
No. Wanjigi is not an opposition.
What is he trying to play here? I mean, he has set up, listen to this,
he's trying to
ODM fires warning shot at Wanjigi for opening offices. He's also opening parallel offices.
He's popularizing ODM. If I were to open a Jubilee office in Matuga,
we celebrate that.
What would happen? I'm popularizing that party. You see, whatever the end game will be is a different matter.
But to me, don't you think, like you say, Kingi has not incorporated you people. The same way, you cannot set up an office without incorporating the rest of, the members of the party.
No, but I'm looking at it this way. Assuming somebody opened a power office in Kisumu. You see, he would have introduced the power. In politics, we normally say publicity. There is no bad publicity. You see, people will be walking around. Which office is this? We are used to ODM, and now it's power. What is power? Now people will start questioning, and they'll be told, well, power. This is the party where King is the party leader, assuming that's the position, and then they will start now questioning. So to me. That is a strategy. That is a strategy within ODM. And remember, you create a discussion sometimes by negating something, by making something look bad. You see, you create a discussion around it. So now you can imagine now we are discussing opening ODM offices by Wanjigi. Why?
And so it's more, all right.
So it's more of a publicity stunt from where I sit. Otherwise, ultimately, ODM belongs to Baba.
There's no question about it.
All
right. Well, it will be interesting to watch as we are here. Those are some of the key stories that have been captured. COVID jabs target elusive, only 12 doses to be shared, 36 across the countries, and I think we've seen that. Well, we've talked about the aspect of electricity. We wait to see how it goes. Kanu, on this other side, they say they're going to make a big declaration. I do not know what Gideon Moi plans, but how damning will it be for One Kenya Alliance? I mean, there have been talks, and you've heard of these talks that, Gideon plans to exit One Kenya Alliance, don't allow him to exit. And I think we also had this candid conversation alongside Honorable Makali Mulu. Just what is this that Kanu seeks to achieve, under the banner of the One Kenya Alliance?
Well, Linda, I'm an invitee to only that I had traveled by the time, of course, I had traveled, I had engagements, but otherwise I would be at Bomas with the NC and as the NC invited by Kanu. me not being a NEC member in Kano, I will not really be able to say what they are likely, that big bang, you know, the big bang theory today would be. But I can only imagine that from their members, from their membership, because I'm imagining if ANC was to do that, bring the National Governing Council from all over the country to one together, what would they be asking for? They would be asking for their party leader to go for the big seat. Yeah, I can't see the NGC saying, well, we've come all the way, but you are saying, usisimamie, we don't want you to be the president of this country. So I would expect that message from the participants of the National Governing Council, whether the party leader of Kano, Gideon Moi, would now make a declaration that he has accepted and is going for it. Remember, I'm not quite sure whether he has ever said that he's going for the presidency this time around. People have been talking about it. And like Musalia, who has said categorically that he's going for it, I cannot remember him saying so. Probably from today's, once the delegates ask him to go for it, he will declare. But even if he declares, remember, we had not reached that point as One Kenya Alliance where we are saying this is our flag bearer. So to me, that is quite in order. Let him declare, let Wetangula declare, let Kalonzo declare. Of course, our party leader has declared. If power comes on board on One Kenya Alliance, let Kingi or whoever declare. And that point will reach when now we are going to get a flag bearer. Remember, Linda and our viewers, we've never had a problem in this country of picking a flag bearer in a coalition, be it in One Kenya Alliance, be it in CORD, be it in NASA, be it in NAC, even when we came in NAC, the first really serious coalition, we have never had a problem. So why people are imagining that this time around, it's like a do or die, that we need that person now, otherwise there is a crisis. I think this is a making of our detractors.
All right, you're excited as ANC to probably be picked as the flag bearer in this case. Just like you said, it becomes hard for one to seek an endorsement from a government that has already failed. It is a government that appears to have failed. There's so much, you know, we're talking about 1.2 billion Kenyans, you know, taking Fuliza daily. What plans do you have? Aren't you scared that you're going to, you know, inherit a government that is already on its knees? And how will you resuscitate the same, even with the kind of economic model that you present?
One, we are not on models. I'm not a fan of models myself.
But that's what we had sitting on the other side. It was tulip, golden tulip.
We are quite sure. We are quite specific. We are quite clear on what else this country. And it does not need one model. If you are to ask me, corruption, which model do you need to tackle corruption? Because we've talked about fuel prices, we've talked about SGR, we've talked about the high cost of living, we've talked about the balloon. When we borrow money, what percentage goes into the actual work and what percentage goes into corruption?
How different will be your approach to dealing with corruption?
Zero tolerance in model. Zero tolerance on corruption. Fortunately, our party leader has not had any scandals. You know, you cannot really pin him to any scandal. So, since we have always said it's the executive, the ball, of course, tops with the executive, we have a party leader who is clean on matters corruption. So we don't need a model on that one. But probably let me pick from where you had initially said that the country is in its knees. What are we going to do about it? Yes, it is on its knees, and that's why we need to come in with the fresh ideas, with the fresh zeal from tackling what else this economy. And we've been very spot on matters corruption. We've been very spot on matters debt. On matters debt of this country. We basically, from our collection, from our taxes, we don't have any room to do development, so to speak. All what we have is repaying debt. And the bulk of this debt went into people's pockets. That is why now it is hurting the economy. If it had been properly utilized, a bigger percentage of the repayment would be coming out of those projects. But when you look at the agreements, the little that we've known, remember, nobody has ever actually come with the direct contact with the agreement between the Kenyan government and the SGR project. I remember some time back, even when His Excellency, the President, had a forum, and he was asked this question, and he said he'll make it public. It has never been made public. But what? The glimpses that we are having, it is so skewed. It is so skewed that I think the late Magufuli at one time alisema ni mwenda wazimu peke yake anaweza kutia mkataba na hizi za China ambazo ziko. But that is what we have. So the issue of debt management, and then the issue of taxes. And then the issue of taxes. But how do we lower taxes in this country? Because we again need money to run this country. It is simple, but it is the willing. When you deal with corruption, serious investors come in. When serious investors come in, they create jobs, isn't it? When they create jobs, people start earning a decent living. Of course, with earning a decent living, you pay taxes, you see. They'll be lower, but the tax base will be bigger. That is where the problem, that is where the solution lies. The solution does not lie in, like saying now, you are going to give me 5,000 shillings to start a business. That one will not work. It will not work because for me to start a business thrives on a basis of supply and demand. Who am I going to sell to if all of us are down? You've given me money. I'll just end up eating on the capital because the profits are not there. And that is why you are talking about fuliza. You know, people are fulizering to buy food. They are not fulizering to do business. Because you will fuliza to get extra capital to do your business, to increase your stock. That way you pay back. But when you fuliza to buy bread, how do you pay? And tomorrow you need another bread. That's where the problem is. You know, Mahesh,
I'd really love to hear much of what ANC has, because then we are also looking at the aspect of representation. What confidence do you have that you'll have proper representation in Parliament by the time you're in government, and you'll have the numbers, you know, to be pushing some of these bills? Because look at the public management bill itself.
Which has not seen the light of day. And you know,
as we come to a close,
you know, Linda, what surprises me in this current government is that sometimes, even where they want to be assisted in terms of ideas,
they don't want to buy into that.
They don't want. And I think it is in their it is in their strategic plan that the status quo favors them. You see, that they would want it to balloon for as long as it is benefiting individuals. To me, that is where I would put it too. But overall, going to 2022 as the ANC, it is my prayer that Kenyans will now start voting for policies, because it starts and ends with the voter. You see, despite all the coalitions, despite all the irreducible minimums and no minimums at all, Kenyans will approach 2022 from a perspective of policy, to know that this is where I'm hurt most and this is the solution. The solution is not your tribe, for sure. The solution is not your region, for sure. But the solution lies in what I had initially said, policies and regulations and laws that will benefit all. But in Kenya, we don't even lack laws. It is the will, and the will comes from the leadership. So Kenyans will be voting on the basis of the leadership. If it is about peace, going through those who are offering themselves for leadership, who is this person who we think will look at Kenyans as Kenyans and not just as somebody from my backyard? If we are looking about the economy, who is this person? If we are looking about corruption, who is this person? Amongst those who are offering themselves for leadership, who we somehow with the degree of confidence have said he's not corrupt, you know. Those are the issues that I think will take Kenya forward. But for as long as come 2022, we'll go back to listening to our tribal echoes, we'll go back to listening to handouts, you know. I can tell you handouts is real.
They speak
it's another vice. Handouts speak big when it comes to elections.
That's true.
People now could be as famous as they could be simply because they are the ones giving more, you know. And it happens across board at the presidential level, at the parliamentary level and
Right
even at the MCA level.
Yeah.
You know, that is our men are doing.
Wow,
but if we can get a few lessons from our neighbors, especially south here, TZ, I think their politics is, apart from, of course, the other issues they had in the last election, the Tanzanian voter looks at the leader,
Ideology.
not at the tribe,
Yes.
not at how much is. In fact, when you give money, they tend to shun away from you. They tend to shun away from you. So I think there is a lot that we can learn approaching 2022.
Well put, Mheshimiwa.
And with those ideas, I think then ANC is very well placed in terms of policies and ideas and the solutions to the Kenyan problem.
Thank you so much. I guess it's incumbent upon us to make, that candidate decision. It was nice speaking to you this morning, Honorable Kassim Sawa Tandaza, Member of Parliament, Matuga constituency in Kwale County. And on that very note, we say it is a wrap on this session as we are getting to a different conversation on how best we can deal with the environment just so we can preserve our very own sector of tourism. After this.